Here is a look at your gap and go trades for the week of March 24th through the 28th. I will go over price targets on the 5-minute time frame, have a gap recap from March 17th through the 21st, and update the chart as well. Hi everyone, it's Dow on the Dow. First up is Rivn. We ended the day at $11.60, up 6.62%. To the north side from where we are takes us to 2 standard deviations and another level of resistance and another potential take profit area at 1168. Above that at 1193 and 4 standard deviations, roughly $12.18. To the south side takes us back to the middle of the trend and the baseline, which is 1118. Below that lines up to an area we've been to in the past at 1069. Below that 1044 and at -4 standard deviations, which I do not anticipate price to get to on Monday. And if we do get to this level and this level, I will anticipate a bounce as people buy the dip. Now looking left, from this week to this week, we had one gap opening. That was on Thursday. We gapped down, so I anticipate that gap to fill to the upside, and it did in one day, and it touched right there, taking us to 1134. We fell back down because price tends to hover right up around this line, but it bounced, and then we got to this level, not quite up to the red line, which is 2 standard deviations, fell back, went down, went back up again, and basically we're just, looks like going sideways. Turn on your VWAP, your Bollinger Band, whatever you like to turn on the indicators to give you different buy and sell signals. But within -2 and 2 standard deviations, many areas of support and resistance. I just play typically here to here, which is resistance, and then from here to here is another level of resistance, and on the way down that turns into support, which I anticipate a bounce either going left or going down, and then another bounce through here. But these other lines that I mark out will also act as support and resistance. You can arrive at the same way you use other indicators and I use indicators, but we get there the same way. Well, not the same way, but we get there nonetheless, but just in a different way is what I'm saying. And you can also get there by turning on the bots, the buy and sell bots. But note the clear bounce here at support. We're getting to resistance, and here is a clear area of support, and there was a bounce. And when we get to this line, that's resistance. We busted right through, and the previous lines I marked out acted as also resistance. Now, as far as a gap I'm looking forward to is a gap to the upside, although we are still going down. The channel is still going down. And however, when we turn around, that gap will take us to 1292, but not in the channel, not in the zone. Just something to be aware of. And to the south side, I think that we have closed every gap to the south side, so that's good. And that's done here. I will have to check this out in a bigger time frame, but right now I'm not going to do that because I want to speed through this. I'm still dog sitting a Bauble, and she's napping right beside me, but when she gets up and when I'm done, I'm going to go to the park and take her for another spin, my second one. I typically go 2 to 3 times a day, but she's going back home today, so I think I'll just do 2. All right, next one. And note, where is the RSI? I got to move this out of the way, turning down because we were close. This acts as support and resistance too. That's all I use that for. Just a quick glance. And when that lines up with that, that means the likelihood of it going down is greater. Tsly. We ended the week at 807. And all I'm checking out is from here to here, and it shows we're slightly in a downward trend. Now, to the north side takes us to 821, 839, and do not hold your breath for price to get to this level, 855. If we do, it could wick to get us there, but it will fall down as people take their profits. 788, 754, don't hold your breath, 737, and 720. You know what happens if we do hit that level? There's a mass sell-off. There will still be a bounce. All right, what is happening here? This is a gap that touched straight out of the gate on Monday. So that's done. No longer a threat to our account. To the south side, that took us down to 824. Delete. It started at 840. I don't know why this is here, but let's delete that. All right, and this is an area of resistance. So I already know intuitively when I look at this, just a quick glance, it's going to fall, and it did. It fell down to here, got a bounce, and then fell back down. This acts as the support line, and it fell right through. Off of what news? I don't know, because I didn't pay attention nor write it. All right, but all I know is this is resistance falling down to support. It fell through even that line. So sometimes you got to put your stop loss in. All right, this gap fell down, so I anticipate it to fill to the upside, and it did right there, let's say on Wednesday. Was that the, no, yeah, still Wednesday. All right, that took us to 823, and then we officially touched resistance up here, and it fell back down, created another opportunity to the north side, which is carried into this upcoming week. So that will take us to what level? 819. I will turn that green. And what happened with this gap? Remember, I just extend. I have no idea when it's going to touch, and this one did on Tuesday morning. That took us down to 795. We fell down even more and then saw this bounce here. And what happened to this small gap? That touched right there on Wednesday, taking us down to 787, fell down even more. So this gap is no longer a threat, but this gap is in play, which is nice, to the upside. And then we have another gap to the upside here. Now, when you look at the middle of the trend, by the end of the week, we could go and follow this line down here, resting here at the end of the week, which is 776. The lower band takes us to roughly 743. The upper, well, here would be, it's 810, 827, and 843. All right. What about any gaps to the south side? I think that's it as well. So this gap is extended to the following week, and I will extend this as well, moving farther away from this gap closure. So we are not in the channel, not in the zone, and not even close right now, still slightly going down. You're going to get different buy and sell signals on different time frames, so flip over to the other time frames depending upon what your target and motivation is. So from here to here, the middle of the trend at the end of the week could take us to 208.70 possibly. But you know, Boeing, this thing whips you around, drops at the slightest bad news, like the world is crashing, oh no, and then all of a sudden it bounces like crazy. The news, like they're getting contracts or there's an accident, you just don't know. That's why you have to set a stop loss. All right. This next one, again, Boeing 178.11. And the middle of the trend and the baseline takes us back to a place we've been to before at 181.59 previously, but now it's 181.79. This is support if we go sideways or we grind up towards the middle, which would be lovely. Above that, 187.23. Don't hold your breath, 189.91 and 192.77. That was the FedEx, Rosie. She heard the diesel engine of the FedEx truck. And she's a guard dog, and it got her all keyed up. It's okay. It's okay, baby. She's 120 pounds, and she thinks she's a tough one, but she's not. You're just a little baby, aren't you? Okay. I'm almost done. Kind of, but we won't tell her that. All right, to the south side. 176.20, 173.50, bless you, 170.62. And as far as the gaps go, this gap, which I had extended, touched on the 18th, taking us up here to 170.13, which was an area I've marked out previously. See that line? That is an old middle of the trend where we've just retraced to. All right, 170 is no longer in play. Congrats if you went long to the upside. And what happened with this green gap here? So that was in play since Thursday, March 6th, and we touched right there on the 19th. So congrats, that took us to 163.12, and then we ran up even more, another leg. And this gap opened up because we gapped up. It will fill to the downside, but that is not going to happen next week, I don't think, because look at this strong channel to the upside. But we could, you never know, wick down from here and then bounce back up. But right now, I don't think so for Monday. Okay, and then that starts at roughly 164.99. So that is it for the gaps I need to clean up for this week. But what about the other gaps? So we have a gap up here. As you can see, I've tracked this for a long time. All right, oops. That will take us to roughly, oh gosh darn it. What did I mark out previously? Did I even mark? Oh gosh darn it. You have to be so precise. That takes us to 198.53. 198.53. Let's mark that. What did I say? 53? If not, close enough. And then I saw another gap up here. All right, that will take us to roughly 217.67. Could we touch it at the end of the week? It sure looks like it. The outer band takes us to 219.50 if we're lucky. But it's 1 day at a time. That's why I do the 5-minute time frame and give you 1 day price targets. All right, to the south side, I said 162.15, but there are other gaps, I believe. Or maybe not. Okay. Well, one day I'll look at this in the bigger picture. Next one. Sofi. Just hovering around this price target here. 12.87 is where we ended. Okay, by the end of the week, in case I forget, we could be at 14.18. All right, this is where we are to the north side. Takes us back to the middle of the trend and the baseline, 12.96, 13.31, 13.49. Don't hold your breath for 13.66. To the south side, 12.60 to an area we've already been in the past in 2024, 12.42, 12.24. Now let's take a look at the gaps and clean this puppy up. So we have a gap here. We gapped up, so it will close to the downside, and it did on Wednesday. It opened up on Tuesday, taking us down to 12.14. Congrats if you went short. there, 1140. What about this gap? That one opened up on Monday, the 10th of March and closed right there on the 19th. So congrats if you went long and, oops, wrong thing. There you go. Delete. Now, what about this gap? That one is still in play, and we will definitely touch it on Monday. That takes us to 1340. All right, and I think that's it for now. Okay. Yeah, and I'm upside down on some of my lots that I bought, but I'm overall still up a lot with Sofi. Thank the Lord, but this thing really needs to turn around. All right. Oh, one thing on Boeing I forgot to mention. Was it Boeing? Yeah. So for Boeing, this is the new middle of the trend line for the week. And last week, where was it? We were here. Geez. All right. So from here to this line is an 8.60%, and for the day we were up 3.06, but we were even lower here. So from here for the week to the high is a return of 15%. Play the long game, you made out. So this is the middle of the trend, and this line is an old line that I marked out right here for the week of Monday, December 30th. I'm going to, what is that, Monday, Friday to Monday. Oh, I deleted this line. It's missing because I probably took a picture for a thumbnail. Got rid of it. So I'm just going to delete that one because it's so close. Oops, wrong line. I'm going to delete this yellow line. Option R. So ignore all the purple lines for the previous ones and the yellow ones unless you're using it as support and resistance. One day I'll delete it, but I like to see where I'm going and possibly where I'm retracing and heading to again. But I deleted that yellow line that was right about here. All right, and because nothing is interfering with this current line, I'm just leaving it alone. Sofi. Did I already go through the price targets? Yeah. No, I didn't because, well, I never cleaned up this one. Right there, closed on Friday, taking us to 1262-ish. If I didn't give you price targets because I digressed, 1331, 1349-ish. Yeah, I did. 1368. 1260. Sofi. Okay, Intel. Again, all I'm looking at is in the big picture from this day to this day, but I'm giving the price for only Monday. All right, upper band, 2478. 25.34, don't hold your breath, 25.95, the middle of the trend takes us to this line, pretty close to where we've been before, so I'll delete that in a moment. Here, these lines again, 22.41, 21.86, and back to an area we've been, 21.25. Now, this is the middle of the trend, and this one's close, so where was this line drawn? This line right here. Oh my goodness. Wow. You know what? Forget it. I'm not even going to bother. I'm going to fix this in the bigger picture, a different time frame when I have a moment. All right. So we have this gap. I'm just going to extend. And then this gap I've been tracking forever. Oops. So again, 24.76, and that one is 25.96. Okay, so this is a support line and a bounce up to resistance and a sell-off, and then now we're going sideways here. We gap down. This presents an opportunity to go to the upside. Let's mark that out. Roughly 25.85. This gap took us to the downside. Congrats if you made money going short there. And that is roughly 24.15, back to an area we've been. And then there's a gap taking us down here to 20.73, and then this nasty one back at 19.91, and then 19.14. And note the downward channel that we are in. So by the end of the week, we could be conservatively at the middle of the trend, 21.07-ish, and it will bounce you around. All right. Oh, and by the way, when I talk about prices to the south side, this is also to the south side support, support, support. This could also be a potential stop loss, a stop loss, a stop loss area. Depends on your objective. I should move this to the end of the week. All right, that's Intel. Unilever. 58.65 is where we ended. The middle of the trend is right here. I will delete the other one to the north side of it. Yeah, oh, yep, that I marked out on Monday, December 16th. We have finally retraced to we retraced it here, but I marked it out a long time ago. So I'm just going to delete that, so close to the other line. All right, so here we go. $59.11, $59.26, and $59.40. $58.54, $58.40, and $58.25. I get so distracted going side tangents. All right, and what happened here? This gap, oh, that's 2 weeks ago, so that's done. This gap is still in play to the upside. This gap also opened up an opportunity. Here, and this gap, let me mark it out. It's a little off, there we go. And this gap to the downside. Oh, wait a minute. This gap, I know it's hard to tell, but there was a gap closure right here. So this gap is actually already done. It lines up with this spot where 3 gaps intersected. This one, and this one. Okay? That took us down to roughly 57.74, 75-ish. Delete. No longer in play to the south side. So that's done. And then we have this gap and this gap, taking us to 56.09, 56.24 there. Okay, that's done, cleaned up. Oh, excuse me, 62.28. I did yard work this morning and I'm suffering from it. Ugh. All right. That is it for Unilever. The next one is, oh, and very quickly, note the bounce here. I know that's a steep fall to -4 standard deviations, but if you've got, you know, you've got a lot of gumption and conviction. Right here is the support line, and it bounced. All right, Estee Lauder. We ended the week at 66.95. Middle of the trend, 67.63, 68.39, 68.74. Don't hold your breath for an area we've been to before for Monday, 69.08. To the south side, 66.87, 66.53, 66.18, and we are still headed down on Monday. We could reverse later, but on Monday, it's still going down. That will take us down to 65. This gap closed right there, basically, on Friday, taking us to $68, roughly. Look, 68.23 is where we hit the high. And what happened here? I need to clean this up. While I would like this gap to continue to the upside, that is okay because we actually hit that gap closure, stopped it out right there at roughly 69.46 on Monday. So out of the gate, delete, no longer in play. And do we have any gaps to the upside? Oh yeah, we have tons of gaps to the upside. That's right, because this thing cratered. It melted. And notice I use the word melted down. It drives me bonkers when people say melted when they're talking about it going up. Things don't melt up. I've never known a fire to melt things up. It disintegrates it and flattens everything out. All right, that is it there. And that will take us on the bottom part to 77.14. That's all I'll just say for that, although we're moving farther away from that upper gap. The next one is NEO. Ignore all the lines, the yellow and the purple lines. Those are different reference points. All right, so we're at 450. To the north side, takes us back to a spot we've been, 463. 473, don't hold your breath for this area, 483. Some other point possibly in time. And right here, oops, delete. Got to be off of that. There. Turn off the magnet. It gets things wonky. Right there. All right. To the south side, 422. The beginning of a gap around 412, closing out at 402. This gap closes at the downside at roughly 395. Not in the channel though, not yet. Okay. And then we've got another gap down there too, taking us to roughly 379-ish. Now, since I marked out this one, that is so close to this line, so I will delete it. That opened up on March 10th that I marked out. Delete. That way just gives it a little more room to breathe looking at it. Doesn't look so congested. All right. And as far as the gaps for the week, this gap was from the previous week, Monday the 10th. Well, it opened up on Tuesday the 11th, we're talking about for this entire week. And that closed right there. Oops, taking us down to 448, a price I've already mentioned. So congrats if you made money going short. Delete that, no longer in play, no longer going to haunt us to the downside. And then what happened here? This gap that opened up on Friday, March 14th, closed out right there on the 20th. So congrats if you made money going short here as well. Delete. And what happened here on this gap? Remember, from the previous week, I just extended. I have no idea when it's going to close, and that's why you have to go back and clean up your charts. And you think that could be a target, and it is not a target. All right, and that is 509, although we can kind of go back to an area we've been to before if you use gaps to look back in the past, because they do often go back to the same area. All right, so that took us to roughly 509. Yep, right there, delete. And this gap, we gapped up. Oh, so intuitively, I already knew there was something wrong with that picture because we gapped up, which means it closes to the downside. So now that makes sense for my eyeballs when I look at it. 503 to the south side, congrats. That closed out on Wednesday, and that opened up on the 18th of March. Closed on the 20th. Okay, the chart, as you can see, went sideways. We chopped sideways, and right here is resistance, still going sideways, and basically using this old middle of the trend as support and resistance, it looks like. But we are at resistance, and look at that, flush down to the toilet right here, because we are at resistance, and it finally tanked. So we gapped up, so that means this is an opportunity now to the upside whenever we reverse course. That will take us here to 496 and closing out at roughly 516. But note the downward channel. We've got to suffer some more first. All right, this is done. And where did this touch? That red line looked, okay, yeah, it was wonky right there. One gap closed, one gap opened. This one closed to the downside at roughly 448. That opened up on roughly Tuesday, the 11th of March. So congrats if you went short there, because all we did is from here, we gapped up. So then it's going to retrace, but if you were patient, we went up to go back down to close this open wound. It's like a doctor. We have to cauterize this. Okay, what else? This is a, oh my goodness, gap to the downside here at 395, 397. I'll clean that up later, but just note we are in for a bounce possibly off of that, still going down. So these two could close, which means an opportunity to buy it at a lower price and then hopefully bounce if you think it will bounce. Or some of you may think it just will go out of business. Who knows? But I don't think that's going to happen, going out of business. I don't think that's an option. So this is still in play to the upside, but we're moving farther away from it at 471. And this one taking us to about 456. All right, that's it for Neo. Oh, thank the Lord. One more Nike. We're at the middle of the trend. I was thinking about picking up more Nike because I need a dollar cost average down. All right, 68.18, retracing to 71.13, 72.65, and 74 to the south side. 65.17, 63.79, and another stop loss area or potential buy-in area, depends on what side of the line you bought, 62.27. This gap, an opportunity opened up on Friday. That will take us to 71.48. And this tiny little gap closed on Thursday the 20th, taking us down to 71.80 and then bled out some more. But look at this. Look at the earnings. reported $11.27 billion. Estimate was $11.02 billion. And how did this stock do? It got punished, fell down, and closed down 5.46%. So now we're trying to fill this gap, but still going down. But eventually it will get closed. And what happened here? I gotta extend this one and gotta extend this one. That will take us to I'm wrapping up here to 89.16. All right, that is a look at your gap and go trades for the week of, what is this? Week of the 24th through the 28th. If there is a ticker that you would like me to go over for the week, let me know. Otherwise, have a great trading day. I am off to the park.